All good?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for logging in. Thank you for coming. Gracias por venir. Yo soy la oficial del programa de DARE. Yo soy la que estoy en la escuela con sus niños. Y como miembro del departamento de policía y trabajando en la escuela tanto tiempo, siempre estamos buscando algo más información para traerles, ¿ok? Esperando que nuestros niños van a tomar buenas decisiones saludables y que las consecuencias no sean graves. Hoy yo traje a mi amiga Pam O'Donnell. Ella les va a explicar lo que le ha pasado a la familia de ella para darles información y esperamos que con lo que ella les explica los abre los ojos, porque desafortunadamente nuestras consecuencias no solamente nos afectan a nosotros, pero a todo el mundo alrededor. Okay. I have my friend here today, Ms. Pamela O'Donnell, who's here to speak to everybody, share her story as we speak in their class about consequences. I'm hoping that through her experience and through her information, we all understand that our consequences don't only hurt us, they hurt all of those around us. So bear with me while I translate for my friends here. And please, if you have questions, I'm sure online they will be able to ask, right, Grace?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Ms. Pamela?
Thank you. We got the clip working, by the way.
Okay, so we're good?
Yeah. Thank you for having me. My name is Pam O'Donnell, and I run a very small nonprofit organization called the Catch You Later Foundation. Tonight, we're going to talk about distracted and impaired driving awareness. On February 22nd of 2016, which tomorrow will be the 7th anniversary, I had a very happy family of 4. My husband, Tim, my daughter, Bridget, in purple, and my daughter, Allie, in the rainbow dress. And at 7:45 a.m., we were extremely happy, family of 4. And my husband put my 2 little girls in the back seat of the car. And he got in front of me, and I got into my car behind him. And so that when my girls were in front of me, they were, waving, bye, mommy, bye, mommy, bye, mommy. And I was able to wave to them. So my husband and daughter took a right turn. I took a left turn. And at 7:45 a.m. that morning was the last time I saw half of my family alive. My daughter, Bridget, was 5 years old. She wanted to be a cancer-curing singing doctor. She also wanted to be a New York Giants football player and played for Eli Manning. She wanted to be the first tight end for the New York Giants. She was on her 99th day of pre-K. So, on the 100th day of school, they get to dress up like little old ladies and little old men. I never had that opportunity to do that because at 12:30 p.m., my daughter called me up. She was at school with my husband, Tim, who was a county prep teacher in Jersey City, very beloved high school teacher, loved math and science, also a softball coach. He's still Hudson County's 2-time Coach of the Year for 2 separate teams. He played, coached for County Prep and Hudson Catholic. And to this day, he still holds that record. So he came home at 12:30 in the afternoon to pick up my daughter from her school. So my daughter went back to County Prep with him. And at 12:30, she called me up. And she was very excited and said, Mommy, 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 guess what? I learned the letter P today. And when they're that young, their homework assignment was to print out a picture of what letter they learned. She could have picked pasta, plant, potato, and she asked so that I print out a picture of myself, P for Pam. And I said, okay, Bridie, I will do that for you. And she said, okay, I love you. Bye-bye. Click. And that was the last time I ever spoke to my daughter. My husband, like I said, was a beloved science teacher and math teacher at County Prep High School. And at 12:30, when he dialed the phone number for my daughter, that was the last time that I ever heard him on the phone. At 3:19 p.m., a 36-year-old adult made the decision on a Friday night, so on the 19th of February, went to Manhattan, reserved a hotel room, and called his drug dealer. Methamphetamines, amphetamines, cocaine, marijuana, GHB, and alcohol. So he was a walking pharmacy. And they partied all weekend. And at 3:19 p.m., he came up the New Jersey Turnpike after weaving in and out of traffic through New York City, the Holland Tunnel, and came up the New Jersey Turnpike ramp and propelled my husband and daughter into oncoming traffic. Underneath that picture is my husband, deceased, the state troopers, the firemen. Some of them were my husband and my husband's former students. So they were able to identify my husband's body for me. But at 4 o'clock, now mind you, this happened at 3:19. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a phone call from Jersey City Medical Center asking me if I was related to Tim O'Donnell. Yes, I'm related to Tim O'Donnell. What's the problem? Stay right where you are. We're picking you up. We're sending detectives to come and pick you up. Why? Why are you doing this? And I didn't realize what was going on. And then it occurred to me on the phone, she only asked about my husband. And I said, "Where's my daughter?" And the woman on the phone said, "What do you mean? You have a daughter?" I said, "I have two. One is at school and one is with my husband. I would like to speak to my daughter. Put her on the phone now." The woman on the phone should have put me on hold or told me she'll call me back. And she didn't do any of that. And she radioed back to the crash. At this point, I didn't know that there was a crash. She radioed back to the crash and said, "You better look in that car again. There's a baby in the car." So for 40 minutes, my daughter was in the car and nobody knew it. Now, normally a 5-year-old little girl or boy would be in the back seat of the car. But do you see a back seat? There's no back seat. They had no idea that she was in the car unless I told him that she was in the car. So when they finally extricated her out of the car, they got her out, they had my husband out, and so many people drove through New York City, through the Holland Tunnel, and watching this person, this 36-year-old adult, drive erratically when somebody should have called 911, but they didn't. But instead, they took out their phone to take pictures of my husband and daughter dead on the highway. And if you can see in the picture up above, there's something is there anything that points out, anything that sticks out? Anybody here see anything that sticks out? The stuffed animal? Roby from Yo Gabba Gabba. This is what I have left that was in the car. This picture made it all over the AP press and made it all over the world, and everybody talked about the stuffed animal. And on the back of the stuffed animal, there's a stain, which I know it's probably hard to see. That's my daughter's blood, unfortunately. When they got my daughter out of the car, people were taking pictures of her dead, of her hanging over in her car seat. all because somebody made a choice. We don't use the word accident in anything like this because somebody made a choice. When you choose to drink and drive, that's a choice. When you choose to text and drive, that is a choice. When you choose to do drugs and drive, that is a choice. So we do not use the word accident because accident implies no fault. When we know that there was fault, somebody chose to get high, get drunk, and they chose to get behind the wheel of a weapon of mass destruction. And tomorrow will be 7 years that my husband and daughter are gone. At 3:19, that's the same picture that I showed you from the beginning. And 2 of them are missing. 2 are missing. Half of our family is gone. For parents out there and for teens, I need you to understand that these car crashes are 100% preventable. From Memorial Day to Labor Day are the 100 deadliest days for teen drivers. I don't know if you know that or not. If you have driver's ed in class, the most teens are going to die between Memorial Day and Labor Day weekend. So parents, please be diligent in what you do with your children, when you do with your teen drivers. Make sure they understand how dangerous it is. So as parents, when you're driving, if you're texting and driving using your phone, your teenager is going to do the same thing. If you go out and have dinner and have a couple of drinks, your teenager is going to think it's okay to do that because they're copying you. You are the example. So be the example that you want your kids to arrive alive because it's out there. There are drivers that are impaired, they're distracted, and they are going to kill people. The number one distraction for teen drivers, when you give your drivers the keys, the distraction is actually their passenger. So if they have a best friend that they drive around with, make sure their best friend does not distract them. Make sure that they take their phone so they're not driving with using their phone. So that they can be a second set of eyes. So if mom or dad calls your daughter or son, the other person in the car can answer the phone for them. Understand? And then there's a second set of eyes. So now you have 2 sets of eyes. You see it, there's another person that's going to see the stop sign. Another person that's going to see the red light. Another person that's going to see somebody crossing the street. So we don't want this passenger to become the distraction for the driver. Would any of you close your eyes while driving for 4.6 seconds? Would anybody close their eyes and drive? No. So if you do, by the time your phone rings or pings because you got a call or a text, you've already driven the length of a football field because it takes 4.6 seconds to drive your car and look at your phone and read it, and you've already driven the length of a football field. That's a long way, and anything could happen during that 100 yards. Anything. A little kid a soccer ball could go in the street. You could run a red light. You can run a little old lady walking across the street. You could hit the curb and jump up on the curb and hit somebody, crash into parked cars. So by answering that text, just looking at your phone, you've already driven the length of a football field. And that's a very long way. As of this morning, just this morning, the state of New Jersey has had 70 car crashes since January. and we've had 73 fatalities, and that's going to go up. The National Safety Council, which I am a member of, the National Safety Council estimates that as many as 42,060 people have died in motor vehicle crashes that were 100% preventable. When it's 100% preventable, it's texting, distracted, driving drunk, driving impaired, putting on your lipstick, brushing your hair, anything that takes your eyes off the road, that's a distraction. So if you're turning the radio when you're changing a song, that's a distraction. So in 2020, 100% car crashes and 42,060 people died. What were we all doing in 2020? The pandemic. So all the advocates like myself, government agencies, National Safety Council, GHSA, the Governor's Highway Safety Alliance, we all thought the one good thing about the pandemic was going to be car crashes was going to go down. But unfortunately, they did not. They went up 8%. Why? Because people were quarantined. There was nobody on the road. So you had very selfish people that decided, I'm going to drive on the New Jersey Turnpike and I'm going to go 100 miles an hour. I'm going to drive on Kennedy Boulevard and I'm going to go 80 miles an hour because everybody was quarantined. And coincidentally, during quarantine, alcohol sales went up. So you had people that were drinking at home because alcohol sales went up. And then you have them on the roads and they're driving. So unfortunately, the pandemic did not help the cause. It actually went up 8%. In 2021, I should have updated this, but the National Safety Council estimated over 46,000 people died in 2021. The numbers for 2022 have not come out yet. But in 2021, over 46,000 people died in 100% preventable car crashes across the United States. Nobody should be dying. It's the smaller the coffin, the heavier it is. So I need parents to be the example. So don't text and drive. Don't drive distracted. Don't drive impaired, because your kids are watching everything that you do. When my other daughter, I have one daughter now, she doesn't go to regular camp. She goes to a grief camp to learn how to deal with her grief of losing half of her family. So the Department of Health and Human Services, when she started grief camp, told me that any child between 7 and 17 that loses a brother, a sister, an aunt, an uncle, parent, grandparent, anybody close to them, when they lose that family member, they're 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to engage in substance abuse, which is the very thing that killed my family, 20 times more likely to have behavioral issues. Now, we're all parents. We all know that this is the hardest job on the planet is being a parent, right? The hardest job, because these kids make us want to rip our hair out. The hardest job is being a parent. But now it became more harder for me because I have to check this off because of the loss of half of my family. And sadly, in 2011, I came home and my daughter, who is now 13, she was 11 years old at the time, and my daughter tried to commit suicide. So I almost lost another person because somebody chose to drive impaired and kill her dad and sister, and she couldn't deal with the grief. So she tried to commit suicide. And we want to stop that. But I need your help. I need the parents' help. I need you to be the example. Don't let the people you make the memories with become the memories. That's basically what it's all about. We want to make sure that your children are safe. How many times do we see kids just walk in front of a car? Even pedestrians have to take responsibility, right? You see teenagers with the AirPods and their phones, and they just walk right in front of cars. Now, what if that car driver was the driver that killed my family? Your teen just walking in front of a car is not going to survive. So I need you to help me and be the example and make sure that your children are not copying texting and driving, which texting and driving using a handheld device is illegal in the state of New Jersey. You can use Bluetooth. I'm not a fan of it, but you are allowed to use Bluetooth, hands-free devices. But using a handheld device is illegal in the state of New Jersey. So when you use it, your teens are watching you, they're going to use it too. So the whole point of this is to make sure that you understand the ramifications. Tomorrow is 7 years for us. The person that killed my family, we had to go through 3.5 years of hearings, 104 hearings. So it's not Law and Order, it's not Chicago PD, it's not Blue Bloods. 104 hearings. And when you go through a hearing, it's much different than a trial, because the hearing is to decide on what evidence is going to be led into the trial. And 104 times, the person that killed my family was sitting just a foot in front of me. And I could have killed him myself. Both my husband and daughter were internally decapitated, and my 5-year-old daughter was cut in half. So when I had to identify her body, I had to identify my daughter who was cut in half. And I went through 104 hearings with the man that did it, and he sat a foot in front of me. And he got convicted, but when he testified, he did, and he waved, and he laughed at me. He thought it was funny, and he took no responsibility at all. So 3.5 years, 104 hearings, a 5-day trial of watching this man who cut my daughter in half laugh at me and has no remorse. And just in August of last year, so now it's 6 years later, we thought we were okay. He had been convicted. Last year, they overturned the conviction. And on April 6th, I'm going back to court to try to make sure he does not get out of jail early. So again, I will be a foot away from the person that killed my family and put my other daughter in jeopardy by wanting to commit suicide. So we really, really want parents to be the example, understand how dangerous it is to drink and drive, do drugs and drive. Now they legalize marijuana, and that's a whole nother issue. There's no breathalyzer for marijuana. So there's no way that they can tell whether somebody smoked, because it stays in your system for 30 days. So the police officers have a problem. And it's a hard job to be a police officer when we have laws like this. And that the people that did the laws, didn't think about the police officers. So how many times do you walk outside of your house and you smell weed now? All the time, right? How many of those people are getting in a car and driving? Basically, if it makes you feel different, you're going to drive different. So I wanted to share my story so that you would have an example as to why not to do drugs and drive, not to text and drive, not to be distracted. Even as a pedestrian, it's okay to stop at the corner and look both ways, because the person that killed my family very well may be the person that is driving down the block, and a little girl might be walking across the street. Could be a drowsy driver, could be somebody on the phone, could be somebody that was drinking, and there's your daughter walking across the street, innocently walking across the street, and a driver comes along and then hits your daughter or son. So you have to be diligent and have this conversation with your young ones and make sure that they are the example. These kids are not stupid. They know what they're doing. But we have to help them lead the way. We have to be the example. Does anybody are there any questions or any questions here? So basically, I just wanted everybody, thank you for having me. That was our story. If the mayor, we have the mayor here. We do have, if anybody in the audience wants to try on the goggles to see what it's like to have LSD or marijuana or alcohol, you can come up. Does anybody want to come try it?
Come on, they want to try it. Come on. Para ver exactamente
You
cómo
could
no se
just
puede.
put them right up to your face and see what it's like. That's marijuana.
Marijuana. No? Come on, mommy. What's this one?
We have LSD, which is the equivalent to what the
Okay.
driver was. That's still marijuana.
Dame la mano. No puede. No puede. Okay. No se me marea.
We have the mayor now.
Uh-oh.
Well, see, Mayor, first of all, would
gonna
you
have to give
take
me a
off
high
your
five.
glasses to drive?
Yeah, there you go.
These are for, no, I don't use it.
Oh, okay.
Irish.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Alcohol.
Alcohol.
¿Quiere ver el alcohol? Esa es marihuana. Aguántale un momentico. A ver.
High five.
Impossible.
Dame la mano.
Impossible.
Oh my
And
goodness.
this is LSD. This is the
Where's the
equivalent to
alcohol?
what the driver
Y
was
este
that
es-
killed my family.
La bebida, la borrachera Saturday night.
And
¿Ves?
that's what's on the
Imposible,
roads.
right? Y la gente maneja así. Come on down. No? Nada.
Guys, you have to try it.
Come
A
on.
few more volunteers.
Come on, a few more volunteers.
Mala bebida.
Temas,
Va la bebida.
Temas, remember when we did this activity on Phys Ed? We had to catch a ball or try
Yes.
to run.
¿Esa es la bebida?
I'll come anytime.
Dame la mano. She's like, oh my God. Okay, esta es marihuana. No bueno, right? ¿Te imaginas? Estar
LSD.
manejando así. Anybody else?
High
That's
five.
bad. That's real bad. Nos reímos, pero verdaderamente uno no puede ni caminar con esto. Right? Anybody else?
Anybody
Preguntas.
else want to try?
Come on, girls. You good? Did we do this already in class? Yeah, we did, right?
I just want to say, I'm going to say it in Spanish.
Go ahead.
Yo le quisiera dar las gracias a ella por venir aquí, compartir su historia con nosotros. Obviamente, ella está compartiendo una parte de su vida muy dolorosa, muy oscura, pero creo que enseña el tipo de persona que ella es, en que en una situación tan fea en su vida, ella está compartiendo con el mundo entero para convertir una tragedia que le pasó a ella a ayudar a la comunidad. Y para eso yo le quiero dar las gracias a ella, porque simple y llanamente con lo que le ha pasado a ella, ella se puede quedar en su casa y vivir su vida así. Pero ella ha cogido la meta y cogió esto para ella como un signo de Dios, vamos a decirlo, el trabajo de Dios en ayudar a otras personas a ver el impacto que hace esto en una familia y la importancia de tener precaución cuando está uno manejando en una fiesta, y entonces por lo cual le quiero dar las gracias a ella.
Thank you for having me. I'll come
I told her
anytime.
everything I said.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. I'm working on it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Yo tengo una pregunta.
Diga.
Yo tengo dos niños, tengo un niño especial que estudia aquí, y tengo una niña normal. Mi hija tiene 8 años, ya va para los 9. Ella me pide celular, pero el miedo que a mí me da que yo no le quiero comprar celular. ¿Sabe por qué? Porque como a esa edad es más peligroso, ¿me entiende? Porque los niños van como, si un adulto se distrae, imagínense un niño, una niña a esas edades, es más peligroso. Entonces a mí me dice, mamá, yo quiero un celular, le digo, no, deja que tú crezcas, y eso, a ver si te lo compro, porque yo sí les digo eso, a ver si te lo compro, le digo, pero hacia esta edad que tú tienes, yo no sueñes con celular, no sueñes con celular. ¿Por qué? Porque los niños cuando se van para la escuela, y van todos distraídos por estar viendo los mensajitos que les mandan los amigos, las amiguitas ahí, y a mí es el miedo que me da que se crucen en la calle y no se fijan los carros que vienen de allá o de acá o de aquí para allá. Entonces, por eso mismo pasa.
Y pasa con los grandes, pero con los chiquitos peor, como usted dice.
Sí.
Y usted es mami, no, peleale.
Sí, no, y yo no le digo, mira, por ahorita, olvídate de celular, no me pidas, ni sueñes con celular. Cuando tú seas más grande, cuando tú ya tengas edad, a ver si ya tú sabes, si ya sabes.
Le falta madurez todavía.
Pero mientras ahorita no, ese es el miedo que a mí
Estoy de acuerdo, yo creo que está muy jovencito.
Sí, porque imagínense, nosotros como padres los mandamos que se vayan solos, pero como decimos, ¿verdad? Ellos se van, no sabemos si van a regresar. Entonces mejor así. Yo a mi hija la llevo a la escuela y la voy a traer, la llevo y la traigo. Pero amigos, sí, estoy un poco más tranquila porque el bus, y aún así uno no se queda tranquilo, porque usted sabe los accidentes que pasan en las calles con los autobuses también. Pero mi hijo lo trae al bus, lo recoge en la casa y lo trae. Él es especial, él tiene síndrome de Down. Ya, entonces con él, pues no, un poco sí me da miedo, pero por otra parte no.
¿Es el son one of you guys? ¿Cómo se llama el niño?
José Ángel.
Va a la escuela en
That's one of you guys.
That's my
Ese es
boy,
uno de los
Jose.
preferidos de él, yes.
That's my boy.
Yes.
Sí.
Gracias.
Sí, pero sí, yo sí, ahí sí que soy muy miedosa para yo dejar a mi niña que se me vaya sola para la escuela.
Sí.
Prefiero ir a dejar.
Todavía falta.
No, hay tiempo.
Sí, estoy de acuerdo.
Sí, pero no se crea, aún así, aún ya cuando estén más, van creciendo, pero da miedo, la verdad que da miedo. Y ahorita, pues, como, verdad, ella, pues, contó su historia, y pues, déjeme decirle, yo lo siento mucho, pero como le digo, pues, ahora sí, como dicen, verdad, la vida sigue, pero el dolor que queda en uno, nadie lo va a quitar. Sí. Pero sí yo sé que hay alguien que sí puede sanar su corazón, que es Dios. Dios sí puede sanar su corazón. No podrá, ¿verdad? No podrá arrancar todo el dolor que uno tiene, pero Dios va a obrar en usted. Dios va a sanar ese corazón. Dios va a sanar ese corazón.
Oh. I love this.
Positive.
Dios está con usted. La mejor compañía que usted puede tener es la de Dios.
God is with you.
Dios va a sanar ese corazón.
Gonna heal your heart.
va a poner paz en ese corazón
Gonna put peace in your
y va
heart.
a sanar.
God will heal you.
Gracias, Señor.
Gracias, mamá. Uf. Uf. We always get one of those.
También darle las gracias, ¿verdad? Quizás Dios lo escogió para que salve más vidas en este mundo.
She says that she's also thanking you. She said God called her
Hay mucha
to
fortaleza.
save so many other people.
Que Dios le dé fuerza, Dios le va a dar mucha fuerza.
May God give you strength
Y seguir adelante.
to continue. Oh, she's gonna give you a hug. Abrazos. Oh.
Gracias. I want them all to know that I just want to save their family. I don't want that beautiful
Ella
young
quiere
lady.
saber que ella solo quiere ayudar a sus familias. Ella no quiere que nada le pase esa belleza que tiene al lado
I
suyo.
don't want your family to become my
Y no quiere que
family.
la familia de ustedes se convierta en la de ella.
Gracias, gracias. Muchas gracias por prestar todo
Thank you
su familia,
giving
todo
your
su
family
ser,
all
para
of
que
you
salve las de nosotros.
to try and save us. Wow, this is a totally different term.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Oh, she's reached people.
Yeah. Pam always does.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I'll come back anytime.
Si quieren, ella va a regresar cuando quieran.
Gracias. Muchas gracias.
Yeah, you can do that. Si tienen algunas otras preguntas.